Okay, ladies, let's talk pelvic floor health. And I'm going to tell you something that may come as a shock to you, but you have to stop doing your Kegels, right? I know I did Kegels for so long. It was what everyone was told was the right pelvic floor exercise. But things have changed, research has changed, and they're finding out that many women's pelvic floor is actually overworked. So contrary to popular belief, right, that our pelvic floor is weak and we need to, contract really hard and really strong to make our pelvic floor nice and strong. But for many of us, it's overworked. Our muscles are too tight. And so when we're doing our Kegels, we may just be adding fuel to the fire. And I'm not saying Kegels are bad, okay? So if you are having any kind of incontinence issues past 3 months postpartum, then go see a pelvic floor specialist, okay? We need to get that checked out because it's not something that you have to live with, okay? Peeing your pants is not something you have to live with, okay? So again, Kegels aren't necessarily bad, but until you have seen a pelvic floor specialist and they tell you Kegels are what you need to do, then I recommend stop doing your Kegels. But there are other ways to improve your pelvic floor health, okay? So I have 4 ways for you. Number 1 is hip alignment. So posture is gonna come into play a lot. So hip alignment, we always wanna find a neutral spine, right? So I'm gonna turn this way. So neutral spine, you're lengthening up through the spine. You have a nice C curve in the low back. Spine is long, shoulders are back. Slight tuck of the chin. Here we are. But for many of us, we start to tuck or curl our tailbone out. So we're pressing our booty back, right? We're pushing our butt back and our pelvis is tilting forward. Or this is really common for pregnancy or like right after postpartum, right after you have your baby. We press our hips forward and we're clenching our glutes. So this is called, it's got a name, it's called butt gripping. It's a real thing. I was doing it a lot after my first pregnancy. But once your belly starts to grow big and you start to lean forward because your belly's growing, you counteract that by leaning back and pressing your hips forward, and you automatically begin to clench your glutes, and that totally shuts off your pelvic floor. So you can even find like these little hip circles here. Give your hips a little wiggle. And then again, stand tall, lengthen up, roll the shoulders back, and you'll just find that nice curve, nice C curve of the spine, okay? So hip alignment's number 1, super important. Number 2 is gonna be your head alignment. So for many of us, especially now, I'm constantly on my computer, I'm on my phone, and I have to constantly remind myself to look up, sit tall, and bring my device up to me. Okay, so once you start to jut your head forward, right? Pretty common, we're looking down on our computer, looking down on our phone. Head is forward, we start to round through the shoulders, round through the upper back, and this automatically begins to press our hips forward. Our ribs begin to flare out, and we get back into that glute or that butt gripping, right? We're clenching our glutes, and this can even put some downward pressure on the pelvic floor. And then it also totally shuts off the pelvic floor. So posture is everything. And these are really simple things that we can continually do throughout pregnancy, postpartum, and really the rest of your life, right? Because once postpartum, you're always postpartum, okay? But number 3, sorry, I skipped number 3, is going to be deepen, sorry, I went blank there for a second. Strengthen your deep core, right? And there's a couple exercises that we can do. So your deep core is your transverse abdominis, and that's like the deepest layer of your core, right? It's not what we think of when we think of, I want abs for summer. We're building, crunches, and we're building that 6-pack ab. That is the superficial, and it doesn't really do anything for our body. Yeah, it may look nice, but it doesn't do anything for our support and our stability and our structure. So deep core muscle, transverse abdominis, it's connected to the pelvic floor. Remember, everything is connected in our body. And so a couple exercises for you is let's get down onto the floor here and let's do our pelvic tilt with a hip roll. So we're gonna start with a pelvic tilt first. And you may have done these before. And so the one thing to keep in mind here is that this is just a very light movement, very gentle, very small, okay? So bring your hands to your hip bones here, or right underneath, or right kind of into the hip bones, right into that fleshy part of your belly. And then on your inhale, let's arch the pelvis. So you're gonna find a little space within the low back. And then as you exhale, gently press that low back down on the mat. It can touch or it can't touch, or it doesn't have to. Like, it doesn't have to, whatever feels better in the body. And then as you exhale here, I want you to lightly connect the pelvic floor to the low belly and imagine sending this breath all the way up through the crown of your head. So a lot of this is visualization. Okay, so inhale to arch the pelvis. And then exhale, gently press the low back down into the mat. And then connect that pelvic floor, low belly, bring that exhale all the way up through the crown of your head. So you're visualizing that breath starting from the pelvic floor, low belly, and then all the way up the spine. So once you begin these, it may take a little bit to kind of feel that connection of the pelvic floor, but we have to start somewhere, right? And wherever you are right now is perfect. Just keep practicing, keep trying to feel that connection, and remember, you're just lightly connecting. So let's do a couple more here. So inhale to arch the pelvis, and then exhale, gently press that low back into the mat. Inhale to arch. Exhale, lightly connect the pelvic floor, low belly, all the way up through the crown of your head. Okay, so number one, that's pelvic tilt. And then we're gonna add this to a hip roll. So if you do yoga with me, it's a bridge pose. So on your inhale, let's arch the pelvis. And then as you exhale, you can tilt that pelvis back. And then we'll press into our feet and slowly lift your hips. So this is where you start to turn on your hamstrings and your glutes. Okay, no need to clench the glutes really tight. Again, we don't want to clench here. Just very lightly activate and then stay for an inhale. And then as you exhale, articulate the spine. So that's key. We're gonna articulate the spine up and down. So come all the way down. And then relax, release the glutes. So I wanna make sure to release those glutes. And then inhale to arch the pelvis. Exhale, tilt the pelvis back. Press into the feet and then slowly lift your hips. Then inhale and exhale, articulate the spine, release the glutes. Let's do a couple more here. Inhale to arch, and then exhale, slowly lift the hips. Feel that connection of the pelvic floor to the low belly. Stay for an inhale, and then exhale, articulate the spine all the way down. Release the glutes. Inhale to arch. Exhale, lightly press the low back down, lift the hips, and stay for an inhale, and then exhale, slowly lower. So again, wherever you are right now is perfect, okay? It may take you a little bit to kind of get the hang of it, to get that feeling of connection of the pelvic floor to the low belly. But remember, less is more, okay? We don't want to clench, we don't want to tighten up, we don't want to suck our belly into, to our spine. So that's another cue that we may have heard a lot throughout, fitness classes or even yoga classes is pull the belly to spine. That totally shuts off your pelvic floor, okay? We're just lightly zipping up through the low belly. Okay, last exercise here for the deep core is heel slides. So we'll start with hands alongside the hips and then take a deep breath in all the way down into the belly. And then as you exhale, Empty all the air out of your lungs and really knit your ribs together. So again, we're not pulling belly to spine. We're slightly activating the core by knitting the ribs together. We're going to keep this core activation here, and then keeping those ribs together, take an inhale, and then exhale, just slide the right heel forward. And then inhale, bring that right heel back. Let's stay on this leg. So deep breath in. And then exhale, slide that right heel forward. And then inhale, come back. And then exhale, slide that heel forward. And then inhale, come back. Beautiful. Let's do 3 more on this side. So let's take a deep breath in. And then exhale, slide the left heel forward. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, slide that heel forward. Feel that connection of the pelvic floor, low belly. Inhale, bring it back. And then exhale, slide forward. Inhale, bring that left heel back. And then I want everybody to roll onto the side and use that top arm to press yourself up. Okay, last one. So number 4 here for pelvic floor is breath. Okay, we want to breathe with our diaphragm. So notice how you're breathing throughout the day. So let's check in with our posture. Sit up nice and tall. And then as you inhale, really send your inhale all the way down into your belly. So you're using your diaphragm. And then exhale, just release it, let it go. Okay, so notice if you're starting to breathe or how you breathe, if you are a chest breather or into the collarbones, if when you breathe, your shoulders shrug up to your ears. So notice throughout your day how your breath is, and it can totally change, right? Like if you are stressed out or you're in traffic or you just had a stressful conversation with somebody, your breathing can change. So really with breath, it's just all about awareness and just constantly staying aware of how you're breathing. And of course, it's going to take time. You know, many of us have been doing these practices, these, slumping posture or shallow breathing for years. So it's going to take some time to undo all of that, right? So staying consistent, becoming aware of posture, how you're breathing, and also you want to strengthen those deep core muscles, okay? But again, remember, if you're having any incontinence within, after 3 months postpartum, go see a pelvic floor specialist. It's not something you have to live with, and it's never too late to rehabilitate your pelvic floor muscles, okay?